Just to let you know, we are now recording and we're going to go ahead and get started. I will be checking attendance a little bit later on, but I do have a little activity that you guys are going to be working on during that time. So it's not like you're just going to be sitting there, what do we do now? All right. But there's going to be a lot of you, and some people just might be drifting in a little bit late. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, thank you for joining us today. My name is Jared Watson, and I'm going to be running you through the V1 Organic Workshop. So it's called V1 Organic. There are some new things going on here, okay? There will be a lot of similarities if you taught the C2 Organic last term. But along with those similarities, of course, there's going to be some differences. The big one, as you can see right here at top in red, is called the story writing. I'll briefly also be going over a little bit of a new thing called the Reading Navigator. If you taught C2 High last term, you might be a little familiar with this already. And then I'll also be going through the basic smart textbook components for V1 lessons, because I do understand some of the participants today have actually never taught V1 before. So without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so what we have here is a basic class structure that could apply to pretty much any V1 level. All right, so it doesn't matter if you're doing Mega or Albatross Plus. This could basically apply, and this is just to show what the new material is, where the new material is fitting in and how long it's going to take. So if we notice right here in the first hour, you'll see where it says here is story writing. Well, that's the big new thing. And you see that it's happening in the first hour. You'll have attendance, the vocab quiz, and then the story writing component. And it says here it goes on for 40 minutes. Of course, if you look in the SEG guide, it'll say 35 minutes, but give or take, it should take about 35 to 40 minutes. Okay. The other new thing being added for V1 Organic is the Reading Navigator. However, this is not something you're doing in class. It's something the students are doing for iLearning before class. However, it is important that you guys know about this and that it exists, because it will affect how you prep your class, specifically with your time management, which is important here because, I mean, it's taken 35, 40 minutes of your time here. So after that first hour and after the story writing, everything else will kind of be familiar if you've ever taught V1. The second hour is going to be based all on discussion and building opinions and perspectives based off the story, whereas the last hour is going to be more dedicated towards the project. So yes, V1 is a project class. It is the fun class. All right, so what's new? As I said, it's story writing. So here's just a little Q&A real quick. What is it? It's a focus for students to brainstorm, write stories, and to share with others. All right, why are we doing this? It's to place more emphasis on writing, okay? If you taught the C2 Organic, you may remember that the emphasis there, the purpose, was to place more emphasis on writing and speaking, because they would write their little perspective speech, go home and present it. For V1 Organic, there's no speaking added with this new component. It's just purely writing. They're not going to go home and present it or anything. They're just going to complete their story and submit it, be evaluated, and share it with others. All right. When do students do this? They're going to do it every week. So if you remember that class structure I showed before, all right, there's the attendance, the review test, and then immediately you would start the story writing, and this is every week. All right, who does this? It's going to be all the V1 levels, all the way from Mega to Albatross Plus. All right, will students write their stories on paper or use their tablets, kind of like with C2 Organic? It's just like C2 Organic. If you taught that, the students will be writing using their tablets, and the teachers are going to have to download, once your class is in your MERP, the students are going to have, the teacher is going to have to download the smart textbook lessons, the review test, and the organic story writing as well. So there should be 3 smart textbooks on your tablet. You would open the V1 Organic story writing component to begin this. Once that's open, the students will have their own interface on their tablet where they can start typing their stories. Now, I have been told in the new booster books that there will be a section where students do have the option to actually write their story in their book. However, that should be a backup plan. It's not as recommended because when students write in their tablets, they're going to be able to submit the work that they've completed so far during class, and then all that transfers over later when they go home and they can complete their story. Whereas if they write in their book, they're still going to have to just rewrite all that later on their own home computer when after class. So it's recommended they use their tablets. I would suggest students writing in their books only for students who just really struggle typing into their tablet, or if maybe you're having tech issues that day and your tablets are deciding to be naughty. And then as mentioned before, how long will this take? About 35 to 40 minutes, give or take. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little foundation here. All right, I will be honing in on all these areas, but I want to just give a brief basis of story writing, and then I'll go to the next slide. So please don't think, whoa, Jared, I didn't get that. I'm going to hone in on all these categories. Okay, I just want to build a little foundation here. So with story writing, there's going to be sections that occur before class, during class, and after class. The before and after class are part of iLearning, and then during class is part of the C-Learning where you're involved. All right, so before class, there's going to be an imagination section that the students are going to work with, and they're going to review a key snapshot and imagine their own character in the story. Now, what does that mean? Okay, and I'm going to be repeating myself a few times to really make sure this drills in, okay? A key snapshot is a moment in the story that the students are currently reading. For example, let's say the students are reading the story Coraline, and there's a moment or a snapshot in that book where Coraline finds a mysterious door. All right. The students are then going to take that moment of Coraline finding a mysterious door, and they're going to create their own character, and then that character is going to find their own thing. So maybe they're going to change that to Toby. Their character is going to be Toby finds a magic crystal or finds a mysterious sword or something, okay? And whatever the students choose, that's going to be the basis. That's going to be the prompt of what they're going to write about in class. I'll be honing in more on that later. All right. What the students are also going to do before class, this part's pretty cool in my opinion. It's called the build-up. It's kind of like a video game. All right. Whatever character they chose, like Toby or Umlaut, whatever name they wanted. All right. They're going to actually get to create and customize the way this character looks. They get this whole user interface, so they can change the appearance. They can use images. They can choose if the character is a human, an alien, a monster. They can give details about this character. All right, so it's kind of a fun little activity for students to build up their character, and I believe they can also even make their own setting with this user interface. So it's kind of like video game character creation. All right, then later on during class, this is where you're involved. All right, this is where the students are going to take those prompts that they created before class, kind of like Toby wants to make a magic, Toby finds a magic crystal or something. And the students are going to begin writing their stories in class based off that prompt. And then while the students are writing, the teachers, us, the facilitators, we should actively be walking around, giving guidance and proctoring the students. So when we start that 35 to 45-minute story writing, it's not like, okay, guys, start writing, and then you just go do your own thing. No, you should actually be walking around, proctoring, giving guidance to all of your students during that time. All right. And it's important to note, when the students are writing during class, they do not have to finish, okay? They don't be pressured. Oh, come on, guys, hurry up. We only got a few minutes. They don't have to finish their stories, okay? They should just be starting them and get guidance from you so that they can submit what they've done in class so far. And then once they submit, they can later go home. Here's the after class for the creation where they can finalize their story. They can finish it, they can insert images if they'd like, and then they'll submit. And then once they submit their story, the final step is the evaluation. The students are going to receive an evaluation and feedback from the e-tutors. The e-tutors are not you. The e-tutors are, I don't know, they're magical people from a faraway land outsourced by CDI. I think the land's called the Philippines, but I'm not sure. All right. And once they receive that evaluation, all right, they're going to submit and share their story to Social Learning, where it will go public. All right. And then other students can read, other students at other campuses can all read each other's stories. Neat, fun stuff. Let's start honing in now. So I'm going to hone in a little bit more on that first section, what goes on before class. Once again, it's based on whatever book the students are reading at the time, and there's going to be a weekly key snapshot. All right, so once again, let's say the weekly key snapshot, students will review a weekly key snapshot and answer questions related to the character, the setting, and the snapshot. So I highlighted in red here that a key snapshot is a moment in the story that the students are currently reading. So once again, let's say the students are reading Coraline. Coraline finds a mysterious door. Using that snapshot as a prompt, the students will then brainstorm ideas for their own story. So they might come up with, I don't know, Toby finds a magic lamp. All right. I do want to go ahead and say that whatever the students do come up with here, they're not locked into it. All right. If they choose before class, Toby finds a magic lamp. But then later during class, teacher, I don't like my character's name. I want to change it. What do you want to change it to? Umlaut. Okay, fine. Umlaut finds a magic lamp, whatever. That's totally okay. Okay. The students are not locked in. But it is important that the students do follow the snapshot. So if the snapshot is Coraline finding a mysterious door, their snapshot should be their own character finding something like mysterious or magical, okay? It should not just be Toby ate a tomato. That's my story, okay? That's boring, all right? And then depending on whether you're teaching a low or mid-high, there might be some differences here, very minor. But for low levels, during the imagination section, the students will actually be given choices for their characters, their setting, the objects that character might find. They'll get a Dropbox of choices to help them out. Whereas for mid-high levels, they don't get any choices. They have to just input their own answers, which makes sense. You know, they're higher level. All right. Then later for the build up down here, this is like that fun little video game part where students can create and customize their own character, and they can also create and customize their own setting. So as you see here on the left, it kind of looks like a little Minecraft character, okay? All right. They can kind of choose what he looks like, his appearance, and all that fun stuff. It's just kind of a fun little add-on when they're building up their characters and settings. There are some differences, once again, though, for low and mid-high. When the students are creating their characters for low levels, they do not have to add any details. And what I mean by that, they're just going to get options. They can click that their character is a monster or a human or an alien. And then that's it. They're pretty much done. Whereas for mid-high levels, all right, if they click that their character is a monster, mid-high levels have to type in and add in a detail. So let's say they say, okay, my character is a monster. Click. And they would have to type in a detail. So maybe 3 eyes or 12 years old. All right. Mid-high levels will have to add some details for their characters and settings. So now we're going to hone in even more. I'm going to hone in on the imagination section even closer now. All right. So here's very clearly what it looks like. And before I get too much into this, I do want to say that you, as the teacher, you will have access to these from your FTP, or assuming your branch has a shared Google folder. All right, you can ask your BM or your FM or your TL or your HI, whatever your campus calls your foreign management team, all right, for this information, okay? But these are found in the FTP. I've cropped mine out a bit, but if you do view these at the very top, it will say like for teachers' eyes only. All right, so yes, please don't print these off and give them to your students all at the beginning of the term. All right, these are just for you so that you can have an idea of what the students should be writing about during class so you can prep more efficiently. All right, so let's take a look at this here. Let's assume that you are teaching V1 Birdie. All right. And the story that the students are currently reading is Stargirl. All right. Our key scene, kind of our key snapshot scene here, is going to be about being different from others, as it says in red up here. So in the story, Stargirl is being different from others somehow. Well, how? The snapshot in the story is that she's dressing and acting differently. So the student's job is to change the character. So maybe they'll change it from Stargirl to their own character, Toby. And then Stargirl was being different by dressing and acting differently. Well, the student might change that to their character being different. Well, they're 12 feet tall. All right. They can't help it. They were born that way. Leave them alone. All right. So Toby is now 12 feet tall. So as you see down here where it says the prompt, your character is different from others. The student has now created their prompt. Toby is 12 feet tall. Okay. I left out the setting. Yes, the students need to add a setting, but it doesn't really affect the prompt in this example. Okay. All right. And once again, even though this student chose Toby is 12 feet tall, that's going to be my story later when I go to class. The students can absolutely change their character and change change their answers here, as long as it follows the prompt, as long as it follows the key scene though. So if they want Toby to be something else, maybe they want Toby to be 100 feet tall or something. As long as Toby is being different from others somehow, then that's totally acceptable. All right, so we are going to get a little interactive here for a moment. Okay. I now have another one. This is V1 Birdie Lesson 2, and the key scene now is upsetting others. How is Stargirl upsetting others in their story? Well, she's upsetting others by cheering for the other team. What I'd like you guys to do is go ahead and go into the chat box and just enter your own character and how they're upsetting others, okay? Please keep it work appropriate, all right? Please don't put something that, upsetting others that might not be appropriate, or otherwise I might get a phone call from HR. Yo, what's up, guys? Me again tomorrow, meeting 3 o'clock? Sure, see you guys there. All right, please don't do that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a moment to do that. All right, and then we'll share some answers. While you're doing that, I'm going to take another quick look at attendance, okay? So go ahead and drop your answers in the chat box, and then we'll take a look. Okay, let's see what we got. All right. Boom, 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 boom. All right, we got a whole bunch of them, guys. We got Jacob is throwing rocks at a mascot. That would make me pretty angry. All right, Pam is upsetting others by teasing his classmates. Mario never works well with others. We got, let's see, Bob is upsetting others by teasing his classmates. Pam is upsetting others by screaming inside the classroom. John is upsetting others by cheating on his tests. That John always cheating. All right, Leah not finishing her debate speech for her team at the debate competition and forfeiting right as she begins her speech. I don't know, Joanna, that sounds pretty specific. I think that actually did happen. Constantly popping around corners to scare other people. So I think we get the idea. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your answers. So what we just did there, all right? It's like all of you guys were just students. All of those different things that I just read, that could be an idea of what all of your students are going to be showing up to class with. So as you can see, they're all going to have different stories, but they're all going to be about a character upsetting other people. All right? So let's go ahead and move on. Thank you again, everybody, for sharing your answers. Okay, so here is what's going to look like during class. But specifically, this is the interface, what it'll look like for the low levels. So for low levels, as you can see down here on the left, bottom left, this is more of just the instructor's feedback. Yes, while the students are writing, you can type into your tablet feedback. It's just, in my opinion, it's an option. I personally don't do this. I'm more of the type of teacher who's just constantly on the move, walking around the class. If I'm giving feedback, I like to physically be standing by that student's desk, pointing with my little finger at their tablet. But if you're the type of teacher who likes to use their tablet to type in feedback, it's just an option. But the important thing is what the students are actually going to be seeing and writing on. So what I want to point out here is you see this big white box. Yes, that's where the students are writing their story. However, they're not writing their entire story here, okay? Rather, they're going to be writing just the beginning, the middle, and the end. So in the beginning will have certain criteria like main character, setting. That should be included in the beginning of the story. There should be a middle section, right? Obviously, maybe like a climax, a conflict being introduced, and then the end of the story. So the students are going to click on these 3 tabs to start writing, all right, about those sections. So low levels, there's only 3 sections, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I also have been told that it is your choice when the students are writing their stories in class. If you want to focus on all the sections, sure, go ahead. However, you also have the option, maybe during one week, you just want to focus on how to write the beginning of a story. And then maybe another week, you just want to focus on how to write the middle of a story, okay? That's totally fine. It is your choice. Nevertheless, whatever the students write during class, they're going to submit, and then they are going to finish the whole story later on at home. So let's look at a mid-high. All right, mid-high, very similar interface, but you might notice the difference here now is it's not broken up into 3 sections, beginning, middle, and end. Now the students are expected to write into 5 tabs, 5 sections: exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. So yes, it's looking a lot more official now. All right, and each of these sections have their own specific criteria that needs to be introduced, which we're going to look more closely at now. Not now, sorry. Next slide now. All right, and then whatever the students wrote, okay, they can finish at home. All right, I've already kind of covered this, big bold in red here, just to show you are not pressured to finish all of this in class, okay? Get the students started, submit, finish it at home. This is what I was meaning. All right, now we're gonna look at the criteria. All right, so I wrote this story with no help from ChatGPT at all. All right. And as you can see over here on the left, I have beginning, the middle, and the end. When each of these sections have their own criteria, I pulled this criteria from the FTP, and I will show you the source that I gained that information from a bit later. I just simplified it here a bit. All right. When the students are writing, okay, and let's say, okay, John, show me the beginning of your story. They'll click on that tab. And as you can see, the story here is broken up into 3 sections, beginning, middle, and end. Me as the teacher, I would say, okay, John, you're done with your beginning? Yeah, teacher, I'm done. Okay, John, go to click on beginning and show me your main character. So I see it here. It's highlighted in red, which I just did for you guys. Okay, you got Toby. All right, where's your setting, John? Show me your setting. Right here, teacher. School trip to a cave, okay? Does your beginning end with a conflict? Yep, suddenly he got lost in a cave. Cool, John's got all the criteria. All right, I do want to say, though, real quick, that I put these criteria based off what the FTP mentioned. Personally, I think you could probably take a little creative liberty. All right, stories, the beginning or the exposition doesn't always have to end with a conflict. If the student introduces the conflict of the story, like in the rising action, around the beginning of the rising action, I would not like make a big deal out of that. Okay, but I do see the main things. I want to see a main character and at least a setting. All right, same for the middle, the ending. It's got the criteria I'm looking for. All right, so this is an example of a low level. All right, as you can see, the book here was like the one and only Ivan. Snapshot in that story was Ivan is stuck in a cage. The student's idea now is Toby is stuck in a cave. All right, and that's this student's story. So let's look at a mid-high. Again, I wrote this without help from ChatGPT at all. And this is the book Coraline. Coraline finds a mysterious door. Student's idea. Toby finds a magic lamp. But now it's broken up into 5 sections, right? Exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. Each of these sections has its own criteria. And I've highlighted this criteria in red. So if I was in class and a student said, teacher, I'm done with my rising action, I'm like, all right, click on the rising action tab, John. Okay, where's your conflict introduced? Right here. Boom, okay. So Toby realized he made a wish for all the money in the world, and now he's doomed the whole world to a life of poverty. He regrets his wish. Okay. So this is the criteria I'd be looking for. All right. I don't think you're necessarily going to have time to sit there and reading all of the students' entire stories, checking all the grammar. You don't need to do that. That's the e-tutor's job going to be later on. Okay. You in class, when you're giving proctoring and guidance, I would be looking for the criteria for these sections to make sure the students are actually writing a story. Otherwise, their story might sound like this. I went to the store, I bought a tomato, and it was a good. All right, that story's terrible. That's the worst story I've ever heard. All right. There's also more resources in the FTP if you want to see some examples of the stories that the FTP would suggest. They have stories for different levels, mega, par, just to give you guys some examples. I've looked at these. The stories are fine, but just please note that the criteria is not all highlighted for you. All I could find here is that they highlight the character setting, and then they highlight that the prompt is actually being implemented. But it's not going to like highlight the conflict or the climax for you. But if you guys want an extra example, you can look in your FTP or your Google shared folder or ask your TL or FM. Okay. Also in the FTP is is that criteria for all the sections. So for low level, beginning, middle, and high, this is where I drew that information from, but it's all written in big sentences here. So I took it and just simplified it for you guys. There's also the same thing for the mid-high with exposition, rising, climax, falling, and resolution. Personally, I would suggest looking at this, taking the information, simplifying it, and putting it on the whiteboard for your students or on your TV. So while they're doing the story writing, they can refer to this, or you can point and refer to this to help your students and give them the proper guidance that they need to complete their stories. Now, personally, what I do, all right, this is not in the FTP, this is just my own creation. But anytime I do a story writing class or where students have to write their own story or summarize a story, like an A3 class, all right, I always use plot mountains. It's just my thing. And I always put this really big and bold on the whiteboard. You could put it on the TV too. All right, and it's got all the main sections here. It's got the exposition, the rising, the climax. But I always make sure that I emphasize when the students write their stories, somewhere, maybe at the end of the exposition, or maybe around the beginning of the rising action, there has to be a conflict introduced. If there's no conflict and your protagonist doesn't have a struggle, no conflict, there's no story. All right. And then somewhere around the climax, okay, up here, that conflict needs to end. It needs to be resolved. It should be an exciting moment. Finally, the protagonist wins or loses. All right. It doesn't always have to be a happy ending. All right. So this case here, it's just Harry Potter. Harry Potter, he lives in London with mean relatives, learns he's a wizard, goes to Hogwarts. Okay, we got our exposition. Then we get our rising action. Harry makes friends. Harry learns magic. Boom, we got a conflict. Voldemort wants to kill everything in the world. All right. Finally, the climax, conflict ends. Harry kills Voldemort. Great. Falling action. People get married. People have babies. The end. Lovely. All right. Now, that pretty much covers the story writing. I'm going to take a moment to answer any questions on that before I move into the reading navigator, which will be pretty short. I'm still getting, no, that's all. People are upset. That's all the stuff from earlier with the character being upset. So if anyone has any questions, I can answer them now in the chat. Okay, cool. I'll check it a bit later then. All right, then let's go ahead and look at the reading navigator. Oh, wait, we got a question.
Wait, there's a question.
Yeah, yep, I'm looking at it now from Will. All right. Will these stories be consistent over several weeks? Okay. So the stories for V1, the students are going to, there's going to be 2 books for V1. All right. Each book will be covered over 6 weeks. So the stories will be consistent. Okay. But the key snapshots from those stories will change. For example, earlier I showed you like Coraline. Okay. One week, it might be Coraline finds a mysterious door for week 1. Then for week 2, it'll still be about the book Coraline, but that key snapshot's going to change. So maybe for week 2, now it's going to be Coraline meets weird neighbors or meets weird people. All right. So maybe that's now the key snapshot. All right. And then that will go on for the duration of that book until the students finish that book, which is 6 weeks. All right. And then once the students go to a new book, they'll get new characters with new key scenes and new snapshots. I hope that answered your question.
Kind of. I was more
Okay.
asking, are students expected to write completely unique stories with new characters every week, or will they be allowed to extend their stories over multiple weeks?
They can extend their stories over multiple weeks. All right. So if they really get into this story about Toby finding a magic lamp and they're like, oh, teacher, I want to continue this. Yes, they can do that. But they need to make sure that their ideas are original. They should not just be summarizing, doing a book summary of Coraline.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, hold on. I'm getting some others here. All right, will these stories be the same? Jared, are the pages synced for the writing or do we unsync them? Let's see. So are the pages synced for the writing or do we unsync them? I have not had the opportunity to actually use the interface on the tab because I can't download any books until I get to the STP. For now, I'm just going to assume that once you open the V1 Organic um, from your tablet, once you open that book from your tablet and the students have the interface, I would assume they can just switch over, click on whichever tab they want to write about at that time. If not, then I will find that information as soon as possible. If there is an unsync, I'll see if that is. But I would assume they would just be able to click that tab and start writing. All right, Alexandria asks, are the pages forced for the writing or do we unsync them? Okay. I do not think you need to unsync anything. I'm pretty sure students can just click on any tab they want to write about. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start mentioning the reading navigator now. Okay. If you remember what I said earlier, this is nothing you necessarily have to there's nothing you have to do with this in class. This is an iLearning component, but it's important you guys know about it. Okay. The whole purpose of the reading navigator, okay, is, well, its intention is for the students that don't actually read the book. All right. I'm sure you've all had a class where there's a book involved and students should be reading it every week. And there's always that one kid who just never reads the book. Okay. All right. That gets to happen, right? So the reading navigator is an iLearning activity. All right. That gives the story students kind of a summary breakdown of what went on for that reading. All right. So what this does, how does this help you? Now, what this does is that you are more freed up in class to have discussion about the book and getting opinions and perspectives about characters and events from the story rather than, okay, guys, what happened on page 12? What did Leo do on page 94? All right. Where did the characters go on page 2? Okay. It frees you up from having to discuss what actually happened in the book, and now you're more free to have discussion on opinions and perspectives about the book. So students can give their opinion on what they feel about a character or what they feel about what this character did. How does that character relate to their own life? All right, that's the type of stuff that's the most important here, because if you've ever taught V1 and you know what the achievement test is like, all right, their essay, their personal essay, it's not a book report. All right, it is them having to relate to a character or event from the book or one of the 2 books that they're going to read in class. All right. So that is the Reading Navigator, all right? It's nothing you have to do in class, but it's good that you are aware of it so that you can more efficiently prep. Okay, so now I'm going to just kind of run down with the time I have left. All right, V1. This is just more of the basics of V1, all right? All right, V1 goes from Mega to Albatross Plus. Each level has 2 books, and each book will have 6 weeks dedicated to it. I'm going to hone in on V1 Birdie. All right, and the books for this class are Stargirl and Holes. All right, the objective here is to build an appreciation for literature, and as I highlighted in red, discussion. And I'm going to say that a lot, discussion, 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 all right? Students should be sharing their opinions and the perspectives based on story-related events. And then, as I put here, it's also a project class. So this should be the fun class, okay? Keep it fun, all right? Students have A2 the other half of the week, okay? That gets draining on them. All right, so make sure it is the fun class. And let me move this over. It's in my way. Oh, whatever. Okay. So the first novel, and for V1 Birdie, like Stargirl, students, there's going to be 6 weeks spent on it. All right. Weeks 1 through 6. And then Stargirl's done. Second novel will be the next 6 weeks, weeks 7 through 12. Once both books have been fully covered, the last week we'll compare and contrast those 2 books. They'll compare and contrast characters and events. All right. So once some story writing's over and you're actually starting the second hour of the smart text and going through the smart textbook and going through the components, the first few pages for V1 are the story preview pages. All right. I'm going to tell you, these are not like priority pages. All right. I just treat these like introductory pages. There's going to be various little activities on these pages, like plot lines and character descriptions. There's embedded videos and stuff. If you want to use these, you can. I very rarely use them because honestly, I think I can hype my students up, get them way more excited, finding my own creative media cards and videos to introduce the lesson, all right? So I very rarely actually use the activities that are already embedded, okay? But I do treat the story preview just as a quick introductory area for me to get the students riled up, hyped up, because it is the fun class. I want them to be excited. Okay, so what we are going to look at now is what are the starred pages. These are considered priority. You'll know it's the starred page because once you start going through the components, you'll see these orange stars, all right? Now, as you notice, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas here, but only 4 of them have these starred pages. These are the priority pages. These pages should not be looked over. However, just because these are the priority pages, not everything in these pages are the priority. So let's take a look at that. If you remember earlier what I said about the Reading Navigator, all right, that's intended for students who don't read the book, which frees up your time from spending too much time talking about what happened in the book and what happened on page 5, what happened on page 3. So on those starred pages, you might see some sections, some activities like context 1, text, context 2, fill in the blanks, what happened on page 5. Here's a picture of a cafeteria. Which character did this on page 4? Okay. You're free to do this, but it's not a priority anymore. Okay. If you can find, if this is helpful for you and you could bleed in more discussion by covering this section, go for it. But it's not considered priority, and the Reading Navigator frees your time up for this. All right. I will give a quick tip though. If you are going to do these kind of fill in the blanks, what happened on page 5, you might notice like right here in this little red box, there's a green bar. All right. That just means that the fill in the blank that occurs on page 5, the answer is found at the bottom of the page. If you see that green bar on top, it means it's at top of the page. If it's in the middle, it's in the middle of the page. Just a quick little tip that I learned way later on. Okay, so on the starred pages, this is what would be considered most important. It's the type of activities and questions that are built towards discussion, where students are actually giving their opinions and their perspectives on characters and events and concepts from the story. All right, from what I can tell, there's like 3 different areas. The first one, it's not labeled. I just call it the discussion question. It's usually a question just floating on the page in a sea of gray. All right, but you'll know it's a discussion question because like it says here, does Stargirl know Leo is following her? All right. That answer is not just found in the book. Okay. It's never revealed. The students have to give their opinion if Stargirl knows that Leo is following her. And I want to have fun with this question. I want to have fun with the discussion here. And I want to see what kind of answers the students give me. And then that's going to drive that discussion into multiple areas. So perhaps students might go, ooh, I think she does, but she doesn't want to reveal it because Stargirl kind of likes Leo. Okay, I'm getting into maybe this discussion of boy likes girl, girl likes boy. All right. Whereas this discussion might take a different turn. All right. It might turn into the idea of, I don't know if Stargirl's following, or if Stargirl knows Leo's following her teacher, but this sounds like awful. It sounds like stalking. All right. This discussion might go into the area of stalking now, and intent and legalities and privacy issues. Okay. Some other questions that we want to make sure we cover are, these are labeled. This next section here are the subtext questions. Okay. Once again, the answers to these questions are not found in the book. Okay. The students kind of have to infer the answers. Now, to be honest, yes, there is a correct answer, but I just treat this like discussion. If the student gives me the wrong answer, all right, no big deal. I want to know why. All right, why does Kevin say Stargirl better be fake? Okay, well, you chose A, or this student chose C. Okay, why? Why do you feel that way about Kevin? What do you know about Kevin? What do you know about Stargirl? Justify your answer. Why do you feel that way? All right, kind of using a little A2 tactics there. But I kind of look at these kind of like a fun inference question. All right, students have to make their best educated guess based off like what they would know about these characters. But again, I treat this as discussion. If the discussion branches off, all right, into maybe the idea of thinking people are fake, that's great. We're going to talk about that for a while. And if students are interested, I'll keep that discussion rolling. All right. And then the last section is the image interpretation. I don't believe it's labeled as image interpretation, but you'll know it's there because you're always going to see these classical paintings, okay, with a question involved. In this case, which of these girls look closest to your imagination of Stargirl? All right. And you'll get usually like classical paintings. Students will, oh, that one. And then they'll say why. Oh, I think because she's holding this instrument and all. All right. You're not locked in to having to use these classical paintings. Honestly, I usually use my own media cards that I think could be more fun, but still get the job done. All right, but it's your choice. Nevertheless, these are the areas on the starred pages that you should be prioritizing and that you should be gearing your questions for discussion. All right, and then finally for projects. All right. Just like any C2 class, you are welcome to change the project. You're not locked into them. Just if you are going to change the project, keep it on topic. Okay, this is about Stargirl being a new kid in school. Stay on the realm of that topic. Don't turn your project into ninjas in outer space or something, all right? So like in this case, I changed the project. I thought the prompt listed here was boring, all right? It says, imagine Stargirl is a new student at your school. Write in your diary about how you and other students react to Stargirl. And I'm like, write in a diary. Boring, all right? I don't want to do that. I like to do a lot of skits personally. Skits just where students are now acting. They're building little sets at the front of the class. They're moving around, body animation. All right, they're not just standing there reading something to the class. Thank you for listening to my presentation. All right, I like the students moving around and acting and working out scenes. So if this was me, I would do a skit. Prompt would be present a skit about a new kid in school. I would brainstorm with the students. All right, what could this new kid be like? Are they weird? Are they a bully? Maybe they're not human. Maybe you find out this kid's an alien. All right, start working with your groups. Okay, who's going to be what character? Are you just a normal student? Maybe you're the teacher. Maybe you're a police officer. Maybe you're the new kid and you're actually an alien. Okay, and then I always have 2 rules, at least 2 rules for every project, for me at least. And that's 1, everyone's got to speak. And 2, your team must write a script. This is to ensure that we have both speaking and writing involved in every project. It's also to ensure that students don't just treat project time like arts and crafts time, okay? We still are an English academy. If students are just creating a poster, all right, it may be beautiful and colorful, but they just go, there's my project, teacher. Thank you. All right, that's great. That's very creative for an art academy, but we're an English academy, okay? So let's fulfill English-based criteria. Okay, and I'm going to conclude a little bit on a few more slides here just to go over some little tips. This is a big discussion-based class, all right? And if you've ever been caught in that moment where maybe, oh man, I got these great questions and I got these great media cards, and you ask your questions to a student, and maybe that student, they don't answer, all right? How could they not answer? My question was beautiful. My question was perfect, all right? Well, they're kids. Some students might be shy. They might be apprehensive to reveal something about themselves. So it's important to scaffold your questions, change up your questions. And I'd also like to say, have fun with your questions, have fun with your media cards, okay? This is V1 class. This is the fun class, okay? The rest of the week, they got to do A2 and question types and all that. So let's say I'm going to show this picture of a banana, all right? I could ask, what do you see in the picture? I see a rotten banana. Good, moving on. No, I'm going to ask, hey man, do you want to eat it? No? Why? Maybe it's delicious. All right, if I'm going to show this picture, like down here, this girl, okay? I could ask, who do you see in the picture? I see a girl eating salad. All right, or I could be a little playful with my question. Hey man, does your salad tell funny jokes too? No? Why is she laughing so hard? She's alone. All right, so have fun with your questions. You can be playful, all right? Ask playful questions, ask ridiculous questions, ask loaded questions that you know your students are going to disagree with, because now they're going to have to defend themselves like, no, 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 teacher, that's not what I mean. Okay, explain that to me. All right, this is just showing once again how you might change the media cards or add a media card to replace something from the start page. So perhaps instead, if you want to use the classical paintings, go for it. I might use those. I might opt out to show the kids from the Breakfast Club. And then I'll start having fun with these questions. I might ask the kids, all right, which of these characters best represents Stargirl or Leo or Kevin? And I'm going to scaffold. If I don't get any answers from a student because perhaps they're shy or they don't know, all right, I'll give them another question. I might ask, which of these characters least represents Stargirl? Okay. If I still don't get an answer, I'll give something that's really clear, very easy. All right. Maybe this scary guy up here in the glove, John Bender, I think his name is. All right. I might just start with a yes or no question and build from there. All right. The scary guy in the back, Susie. Do you think this looks like Stargirl? Do you think this represents Stargirl? No. Why? Well, because he's scary. Is Stargirl scary? No. Why don't you think Stargirl is scary? Well, she's nice and friendly. See what I did there? All right, we're building a little discussion there. I might start with a yes or no just to get the momentum going, but I'll scaffold a little bit, get some momentum going, and then build a discussion from there, okay? Just because a student is shy or apprehensive doesn't mean you can't get them to speak. You just need to change your tactics with those students, okay? Whereas some of your students, yes, they're confident, they're eager. Oh, teacher, that one's so good. All right, that's great. All right, it's great to have kids like that, but it's important to know, all right, we got to be there for all of our students. So we may have to change your tactics a bit. This is a discussion class after all. Okay. It's not always going to be asking questions about characters. You might get questions about concepts from the story. Stargirl deals heavily with the idea of conformity. All right. You can have a lot of fun with this. All right. I don't care just to make sure the students know the definition of conformity and then moving on. No, we're going to discuss the idea of conformity. All right. Are you a conformist? Would you consider yourself a nonconformist? If the students are shy or apprehensive to reveal that about themselves, great. I'll scaffold a little bit. I'll change my question. I might ask, okay, Susie, do you know that movie Harry Potter? Yeah. Do you know that character Luna Lovegood? Yeah. Would you consider her a conformist or a nonconformist? A nonconformist, and why? All right. So now the student is talking about a character from a movie rather than having to reveal something about themselves at the time because they're too shy. All right, you're also going to be discussing a lot about events in the story. All right, so there's scenes in the Stargirl where she's doing a whole bunch of weird stuff that is silly, but it's also upsetting a lot of people. She's changing the words to the Pledge of Allegiance, and maybe my students in class might think that's funny, and no, she's not trying to be offensive. All right, well, I might switch that around on them. I'll be like, okay, guys, what if someone changed the words to your national pledge, Arirang, all right? How would that make you feel? Oh, whoa, teacher, now hold on. Now it's affecting me. Yeah, I know. Let's discuss. All right, so there's all sorts of fun events in the books that you can discuss. Stargirl's a great one. It's one of my favorites, to be honest. All right, there's scenes where Stargirl's going to random strangers' funerals. All right, John, how would you feel if Stargirl went to your funeral or someone went to your funeral that nobody knows and just eating all the food? All right, so on and so forth. More events. Okay, the last thing I want to go over with you guys is in the booster workbook. All right, there is going to be a homework section. All right, and it's broken up into 3 parts, but for like up here, it'd be like the first one, Act 1, pages 3 through 4. The students just need to list the characters, the setting, and a little plot summary of what happened on those pages. Same thing for page 8, same thing for down here for Act 3. I will say when you're checking this homework, okay, don't just say, okay, show me your homework and see that there's writing and check them off. Take a moment to actually look, especially at the plot, okay? Because some students will literally just open their novel and copy a random paragraph and then there I did something, okay? Take a moment to see that students are actually doing the work. And I would suggest, it's just a suggestion, but maybe during week 1, do this with the students to just get everyone on the right track and on the right page. But that's just a suggestion for you guys. And that wraps it up, guys. So anyone have any questions? I'm going to open that forum again. And I am going to give you guys a survey in a moment that I hope you guys all fill, that I'm going to ask everyone to fill out. You can say how terrible I was and get your revenge on making you be here today. All right. But if anyone's got any questions, I'll go ahead and answer them now. I'll be checking the chat box. Okay, guys, I just added the survey, but I am going to be looking at the chat box, checking for any questions as well, though. You're also welcome to unmute yourself to just to ask a question as well. Guys, I'm also going to attach these slides in case you would like access to them.
Thank you, Jared, for catching me.
Yep, sure. And I'm going to stop the recording as well here.